Former Green Beret and retired CIA operative Bryan Mills is a man whose life has been defined by discipline, danger, and sacrifice. Now, reconnecting with his estranged 17-year-old daughter, Kim. Kim lives a comfortable, sheltered life with her mother, Lenore, and Lenore's wealthy and controlling new husband, Stuart. Though Bryan has stepped away from his dangerous career to be closer to Kim, he finds himself painfully aware of the emotional distance still separating them. His efforts to bridge this gap are often clumsy and awkward, but his love for his daughter is unwavering. One evening, while working a private security detail at a high-profile concert for famous pop star Shira, Bryan's finely honed instincts and combat training kick in when he prevents an attempt on Shira's life by a knife-wielding attacker. Grateful for his quick actions and skill, Shira offers Bryan an unexpected gift. She agrees to arrange for Kim, an aspiring singer, to meet with her vocal coach to help her pursue her dreams. Though Bryan appreciates the gesture, he remains focused on something more immediate: building trust with his daughter. Soon after, Bryan is confronted with a new challenge. Kim approaches him, seeking his written permission to travel to Paris with her close friend, Amanda. Though Bryan is deeply protective of Kim and instinctively wary of her traveling abroad without supervision, Lenore pressures him to be less controlling, insisting that he let their daughter spread her wings. Reluctantly, Bryan signs the permission slip, wanting to prove he trusts Kim. However, it isn't until they are at the airport that Bryan learns the truth. The trip isn't simply for sightseeing. The girls plan to follow the U2 European tour as devoted fans, a revelation that feeds Bryan's unease. Upon arriving at Charles de Gaulle Airport, Kim and Amanda meet a seemingly charming young man named Peter, who offers to share a taxi with them into the city. Trusting him, they accept. The girls arrive at the apartment where they were supposed to stay with Amanda's cousins, only to find out the cousins are vacationing in Spain, leaving them alone in a strange city. While speaking on the phone with her father, Kim suddenly notices suspicious men entering the apartment and kidnapping Amanda. In a panic, Kim screams out as many identifying details about her captors as possible while Bryan, listening helplessly, gives her rapid instructions in hopes of aiding her survival. Her terrified words abruptly end as she, too, is taken. What follows is a chilling phone exchange between Bryan and one of the kidnappers. Bryan calmly explains that if they let Kim go, he will not pursue them. However, if they choose to harm her, he promises he will hunt them down and kill them. The only response he receives is a cold, mocking good luck before the call is cut off. Calling in favors from his former CIA colleagues, including his trusted friend Sam, Bryan quickly learns that his daughter's abductors are part of a notorious Albanian human trafficking ring. They identify the voice on the phone as belonging to Marko Hodja, a dangerous figure within the criminal underworld. Time is of the essence. Victims like Kim are typically lost within 96 hours, either sold into sex slavery or killed. He flies to Paris immediately and begins retracing Kim's steps. At the apartment, he recovers her discarded phone and inspects the photos taken at the airport, noticing Peter reflected in the background. This clue leads him to the airport, where he identifies and confronts Peter as he attempts to lure another unsuspecting young woman. Before Bryan can get any answers, one of Peter's accomplices intervenes, resulting in a chaotic chase through traffic. Peter is killed when he's struck by a truck, leaving Bryan without a crucial lead. Desperate, Bryan turns to his old acquaintance Jean-Claude Pitrel, a former French intelligence officer now working in the National Police. Though Jean-Claude warns Bryan to stay away from the case, citing the corruption and danger involved, he reluctantly points him towards the red light district where the Albanians operate. Undeterred, Bryan plants a listening device on an Albanian pimp and, with the help of a translator, follows the trail to a hidden brothel operating out of a construction yard. Inside, Bryan finds a horrifying scene: drugged and brutalized women being held against their will. In a violent firefight, Bryan kills several traffickers and rescues a barely conscious girl wearing Kim's denim jacket. Though this girl is not Kim, Bryan takes her to safety and helps her through the brutal process of detoxification. The next day, the girl, now somewhat lucid, provides Bryan with a crucial lead: the location of a safe house where she and Kim had been kept. Disguising himself as Jean-Claude, Bryan infiltrates the house under the pretense of renegotiating the police protection racket. Recognizing Marko Hodja by his voice, Bryan's cover is blown, leading to another explosive fight. He kills several guards and discovers Amanda's lifeless body, a tragic casualty of the trafficking operation. Furious and grief-stricken, Bryan captures Marko and ruthlessly tortures him using electrical currents until he extracts the truth. Virgins like Kim are highly prized and sold to wealthy elites on the black market. Marko reveals that Kim was sold to Patrice St. Clair, a sadistic crime lord with deep ties to terrorism and the sex trade. Determined, Bryan confronts Jean-Claude again, this time violently coercing him into revealing St. Clair's whereabouts despite Jean-Claude's corrupt ties to the operation. Bryan infiltrates St. Clair's mansion during a clandestine auction where wealthy men bid on trafficked women. Disguised as a buyer, Bryan ensures that Kim is purchased by a planted bidder. However, his cover is blown, and St. Clair orders him executed. Bryan escapes captivity in a brutal takedown, killing St. Clair's guards in the process. In his final moments, St. Clair reveals Kim was already sent to a nearby luxury yacht before Bryan kills him. Racing against time, Bryan assaults the heavily guarded yacht. He kills the guards one by one with brutal efficiency, eventually confronting the sheik who purchased Kim. Holding her at knife point, the sheik refuses to surrender. In a swift and lethal move, Bryan kills him and finally rescues his terrified, but alive, daughter. Returning home to the United States, Kim is reunited with Lenore, grateful for her father's relentless pursuit and undeniable love. In a touching final gesture, Bryan surprises Kim by arranging a personal meeting with Shira, fulfilling the promise he made before their lives were torn apart.